because we just finished filming The Favourite. And they sent me this script and asked me to meet with Dome, and I sat and met with Dome and was just really, I mean, I loved the script, but then seeing his take and understanding of the story and feeling his energy, and I was like, wow, this is the right person to bring this story to life. And it was just something that I thought could be a really wonderful take on and learning, you know, the story behind this great artist who's given us kind of this wonderful mythology. I was fairly familiar with his work. I had read The Hobbit after filming About a Boy, because the Whites brothers, the directors of that film, gave me a copy of that book. And then I'd read a bit of The Lord of the Rings. I'd watched the films and was a big fan of those, and then played the card game after school. I'd stay behind after school and play the card game. So I like loved the world and understood that, but then really didn't know anything about the man behind those stories. And that was what was incredible. I read the script and it was a beautiful story, standalone on its own, of these friendships and love, and this young orphan boy who kind of found his safe place to create, and then how that was all torn away from him through World War I. But also as a fan, I was like, oh, this is where all that inspiration came from. First of all, I was just in awe of everything that he experienced and what a fascinating life he had. Because that was something that I was like, oh wow, even if he hadn't created these things that have become such a part of the zeitgeist, it was one of those things where I was like, this is just a beautiful story, and the life he lived was remarkable. So then it was that, and then also his love of language was something that I didn't realize that's what stemmed all these worlds, you know, him wanting to create languages, and his mother kind of distilling that passion in him, but then learning and developing and realizing that you can't just create a language without people to speak it, and then a history for that language. So then suddenly from that he creates, you know, Middle Earth. Well, this is the period of his life, those formative years where you're most influenced, I think, in life. And they're kind of, later on, it'll be a lot more about the work and his time in Oxford as a professor, but this is him having to grow up very quickly when he was a young boy, and then finding his safe place and the people that inspired him. Edith, played by Lily Collins in the movie, is the love of his life. They inspired the Beren and Luthien tale, and you know, they meet in very similar circumstances. They're both orphans, kind of in care together, and instantly fall in love, and have this connection and understanding. And there's a real spark and fun and cheekiness to their relationship. But then, because of the circumstances, they can't always be together, but then do reunite, and it's just the kind of heartbeat of the film. The friendship, you know, it's particularly with losing his parents at such a young age, he kind of then has to start at a new school, which is a daunting prospect for anyone. But he discovers this group of boys that then name themselves the TCBS, which stands for the Tea Club and Barovian Society. And they're this group of young boys who are all very creative. They're poets and musicians and painters, and they all get together and kind of band together with this idea of creating art to change the world. And that's something that post-World War I and Tolkien kind of losing all those friendships, he really takes on board as kind of a healing process, and realizes, you know, just how important art can be in trying times. Lily's wonderful to work with. She's fun and inspiring, and she sits there and she's very detailed with her ideas. Her attention to detail is remarkable, and what she picks up on in terms of, you know, finding and creating the character of Edith and making her really multidimensional, and the force and driving power and the spark between them and her and Tolkien. Dome is wonderful. Dome is, yeah, when I first sat with him, that's what kind of triggered me to be like, this is the right person with this script. He completely understands every emotional aspect of the story and what Tolkien's going through as a character, as well as the other characters. His love of language, his knowledge of that. He'd already read The Kalevala and speaks Finnish, which is a big influence on Tolkien. And then also just creatively, he's someone that his vision in terms of creating World War I and how he wanted to shoot the film and the tone and how he wanted to make it feel was just something that I felt like was very original and creative. It's very exciting. Just as a fan, it's something that I feel that other people will really enjoy, because it's something that I was intrigued by and learned so much. And I think there's lovely little Easter eggs in there for fans, and then there's also these through stories for people that aren't so familiar with his work, just in terms of a standalone story. So yeah, it's something that I would like to watch. The film is about a young boy who loses his family and then has to kind of find a new one and finds a safe place to create. It's about love and fellowship and creativity and all those things combined. So then those are the kind of the key aspects to this movie. I think people will just enjoy watching kind of these relationships develop. Have a little insight into a genius and his process, and then also I think that hopefully come away feeling like inspired to maybe go and create their own ideas and see just how art can change the world.